1, 2, 3. I thought.
Good morning, people. Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Regents. Cerna. We're gonna get started, folks.
Deep voice.
I know. Okay, Enrique, we need to hand you a microphone.
There you go.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Good morning from Vancouver, Washington. WSU Vancouver is my home. I'm Lisa Keohokalole Shower, and I am proud to be here. I am the vice chair of the Board of Regents. Sad that our chair, Marty Dickinson, is not able to be with us today. She will be back for our next board meeting, but pleased and honored that you are all here in person or over Zoom joining us today. November tends to be a month of Thanksgiving, and I want to begin by just offering my gratitude for President Schultz and my appreciation to sit at this table and to sit next to you and your leadership. There is much to be proud of. And much that we have accomplished over many years, but in particular, yesterday was a full day of tremendous discussion, and I'm excited to see how this meeting is a recap of what we discussed yesterday. But in the spirit of Thanksgiving and gratitude, we must begin by first acknowledging the land on which WSU Vancouver is located, which is the homelands of the Chinookan and Taidnapam peoples and the Chinook and the Cowlitz Indian tribe. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers of this land. I think it's also important today that we recognize this is the month where we are celebrating the Native American heritage, and there is so much that we, WSU, as a system, we are doing to advance, to celebrate, and to partner with our Native American tribes. In particular, I'm proud to say that we have Vice Provost for Native American Relations and Programs and Tribal Liaison to the President, Zoe Heigl Strong, who reports directly to our president and who is advancing many of these initiatives. But these initiatives are not just on one campus, they are system-wide. And during this month, I think it's even particularly important that we're paying close attention to the ways in which WSU is showing up and continuing to contribute to the important dialogue that is happening between WSU, the state, the region, and the nation as it relates to our Native American tribes. I'd also like to take a moment to welcome a regent who was part of the Board of Regents in 2018 and has officially been appointed by Governor Inslee, a faculty regent. She is the first official faculty regent. Judy McDonald is filling a faculty role. She is a professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics and was appointed by Governor Jay Inslee to be the first ever faculty regent. As I mentioned, WSU has led in this way, and in 2018 had asked that we have faculty representation on the Board of Regents, but we are pleased to see that this is an official role that the governor has appointed. So earlier this year, with Washington State Legislature amending state law to add and empower faculty regents to the governing board of WSU, as well as the University of Washington, we're fortunate to have Judy sit at this table. So I'd like to just take a moment and welcome Judy to the Board of Regents. We have two of our regents that are participating via Zoom. And so Regent Shetler and Regent Blankenship, thank you for being here virtually. We appreciate your participation. We are streaming on YouTube, and we are able to have folks that aren't able to be in person to join us virtually. I want to also mention that at the conclusion of our meeting, we will have the opportunity for the public to provide comment, and we will allow for up to 10 minutes. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes to speak. Preference will be given to speakers who have signed up in advance and who are speaking to matters that are before the board or will be before the board at future meetings. If anyone has not signed up in advance and you'd like to, please sign up with the board's assistant, Desiree Jacobson. Prior to your comments, please state your name, your affiliation, and your subject matter. At this time, I will officially turn the meeting over to President Schultz for your report.
How come my timer says 2 minutes?
Just a little something that we instituted this meeting.
Well, good morning, everybody. And just two things before I get started. The first is just a big shout out to the WSU Vancouver leadership team for hosting us. And I think we had a really outstanding Regents meeting over the last day and a half. I've been here all week. And it's been really nice to just do events on campus, meet with student leadership, meet with faculty here, and really pleased with all the great stuff that's happening on the Vancouver campus. Before I begin my formal update, it's, those of us who spent careers in higher ed, you have some really fantastic experiences as leaders. We also have some times where things are just really difficult. And what I'd like to ask is just for a few moments of silence to remember the student victims at the University of Idaho and the University of Virginia, and really two tragic incidents that occurred earlier this week. So if we can, let's just 10 seconds of silence, please. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me just spend a minute or two talking about some really fantastic things that have occurred across the WSU system since our last meeting. This first one is we really appreciate the Boeing company making a significant investment in our Schweitzer Engineering Hall and WSU Pullman campus. We were able to have Boeing executives on the Pullman campus. And it took us about a year working with Alex Peach and our government relations team, with our colleagues at Boeing, to work on an investment like this. And if you look back several years ago, Boeing just said, hey, we don't support physical projects, bricks and mortar projects on various campuses. And we just thought, well, let's at least try. You know what the answer is if you don't even ask. And so flew to Washington, D.C., met with some of the really top Boeing leadership, and just talked about our history together, the number of students from all of our campuses that work for the Boeing company on business and engineering and all these different fields. And I was really pleased that every time we wanted an update, they said, hey, we're kind of working on it. We think we might have found a pathway to yes. And then a $5 million commitment was really exceptional and outstanding. What's shown here, though, the helping dreams take flight, is Phil Weiler and our Marcom team also really worked to make sure that we took this gift, we took this opportunity and really promote it. So this was in the Seattle Times. We had this in other places, did some digital media, and really pleased with both the gift and all of the publicity surrounding what we're doing in engineering at Washington State University. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me get a cough drop or something here. Anyway, I'm good. So, water. Let me grab a cough drop. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Water. Too much talking over the last couple of days, so yeah, everybody would agree with that. So As part of one WSU, one of the things that we also have started is across the system, an equity, diversity, and inclusive officers group. So this is each campus's key officer in the DEI space. And this is chaired this year by Lisa Guerrero, who works out of the WSU Pullman campus. But the way these groups are going to function through the system is that we'll move the chairperson around. So every few years, there's a different chairperson of this that rotates through our different campuses. So we appreciate this team. These are all professionals that have worked in this space for a long time. And we really think this is, again, part of our evolution as a system to make sure that we've got people on each campus doing it, but sharing back and forth. And if we look over the last couple of years at one WSU in the system and you say, what are some areas where there's been this great sharing across campuses about things that work, things that don't work? This is an area that I think has been fantastic to see and watch. The way somebody will try something in the Tri-Cities, say, boy, this really worked. And everybody else goes, you know what? I think we could do something similar on our campus and vice versa. So we want to continue to move forward. There's never a time that we're going to check this box and say we're done. It's a journey, and I really appreciate this outstanding set of leaders that are helping us move ahead. We talked a lot about over the last night at dinner. We had a chance to just reflect a little bit on the College of Medicine, the health sciences, where we are today. And, part of it initially was, are we going to be able to get the money from the legislature to have the College of Medicine? And then after that, it was, okay, what's the next step? The next step is, how do we build more residencies in the state of Washington that are focused around rural and underserved communities in areas of medicine that's currently we just don't have enough physicians graduating, staying in the state of Washington and practicing medicine. So one of the things that has been a really cool joint initiative is between Pullman Regional Hospital and the Elson S. Floyd College of Medicine about establishing a family medicine residency program at a critical access hospital. There's only 3 or 4 of these in the nation. This is not one that's done often because you say there's not enough patient load, there's not enough of these types of things. Well, we took that on as a challenge and wanted to lead, not just regionally and in the state, but nationally. And so we had the unveiling of this space earlier this semester, and went around and saw where all the resident physicians will be. Met the faculty, Pullman Regional Hospital and the Elson S. Floyd College of Medicine that'll be teaching those residents. And it was really a cool thing to see something that's been a dream come to fruition. And I invite certainly any of the regents or anybody when you're in Pullman, if you want to see this space and have a chance to meet some of these individuals. We'll be seating the first set of resident physicians July 1st of 2023. And I think these are new residency slots in the state of Washington. Now, just to be clear, the residency slots are not only for WSU medicine graduates. We have a national set of people that apply to these, and we could have all of the residents could be from people out of state, they could be people in state. But I think as we look over the next 5 years, adding residency slots to the state of Washington is going to be something that we're going to be leading on, because I'd like to see us add 500 residency slots to the state of Washington over the next decade, and we're well on our way to doing that. The last thing I want to mention about this is we talk a lot about philanthropy. We actually had an agreement with the Pullman Regional Hospital Foundation to jointly raise money between WSU Foundation and the PRH Foundation. So we were jointly sitting down and talking to donors about supporting something that was both the hospital and WSU medicine, and we're really successful at doing that. So again, this is a great milestone for us. Well, sticking with corporate relations, we also have a long-term partnership with Alaska Airlines for lots of different things. And one of the things that we do a lot of work with Alaska on is green aviation biofuels. This is a national research effort, and Alaska Airlines has been a key partner for us. So For the first time since the pandemic, we had Alaska Airlines executive leadership in Pullman to talk about what kind of things we were doing together, how we can meet workforce needs, how we can do research jointly, all of those types of things. Well, one of the things they always do is have this paper airplane folding contest, and they bring these paper airplanes, and inside the paper airplanes are things like free round trip tickets and stuff like that. So this is the atrium that you can see on this picture of the library, and all the Alaska Airlines folks, and let me and a few other people participate. They give you a bunch of planes and you throw them down, and so you can see eager students that wanted a free round trip ticket or bling or things like that. So
There were some faculty and staff in that too.
yeah.
I was thrown.
Oh, okay.
You should have seen Elizabeth throw some elbows. I mean, it was the other thing, and I think as we celebrate Native American Heritage Month and talk about what we can do with our tribes, I was asked maybe 3 or 4 months ago, what are 2 of the 3 biggest opportunities for Washington State University? And one of the ones that I mentioned was continuing to build positive working relationships with tribal nations in the state and the area, the region of Washington, Oregon, Montana, Idaho. We celebrated the 25th anniversary of the original signatories of 13 different tribes working with WSU. And here what was stunning is at this meeting, 2 of the people who signed the original MOU with President Sam Smith were there. And they've been working with WSU for the past 25 years and are just committed to making this work. And what I think is fascinating is what we're doing now is how can we take this to the next level? How can we work on things like tuition and fees and reimbursements and really celebrating our land grant heritage, but also acknowledging some of the lands and some of the resources taken as being part of a land grant are on traditional native lands, and how do we go about continuing to work with the tribes together to ensure great opportunities for our Native American partners at Washington State University. So it was a great celebratory time. It's a lot of fun to be there, a lot of great stories. And I think it's something else to see folks that have been around for 25 years working on this. So finally, everybody is always excited when we get the legislative session going. Chris Mulick gave a great presentation yesterday. I like to remind people that government relations and external affairs is a year-round process. Everybody's always concerned about what you're doing between January and April, but really a lot of our success that WSU has enjoyed has been because of during the summer months going and seeing people in their home districts, not expecting them to come to see us, and having long, in-depth conversations about public higher education, the challenges we face. Interestingly, lots of conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but not just from Democratic members, but Republican members that want to sit and have a conversation about what we're doing, what are we trying to accomplish. And I think these conversations lay the groundwork for the 5 minutes we get with an elected official during the session. We're simply reminding them of what types of things are important to us moving forward. So I'm looking forward to a great session. Having worked in other states, sometimes people don't appreciate how much support higher education gets in the state of Washington from our elected officials. And it's our opportunity to continue to go and advocate for what we need to make sure we're meeting the state needs. So with that, I'm going to conclude my time. Happy to stand for any questions that people have.
Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Now we'll hear a report from the Chancellor, WSU Vancouver, Mel Timmer.
He took the clock away, so I figure I'm unlimited.
He's just resetting it.
It's not unlimited.
Ooh, 50 minutes though. Thank you very much. Um, good morning. Let me first say it's a real honor to welcome the Regents to campus. We love to host the Regents to share what we're doing, to talk about some of the challenges that we're facing. The November meeting is always hit and miss about the weather, so we're also really excited that it was really a beautiful week, and just so happy to have you here. I'm going to start a little bit differently than I usually do. I'm not going to, but I could do my entire presentation on one slide, and that is this slide. The person in front of you is Mary Lou Cassidy. She graduated last May with degrees in fine arts and history. Mary Lou is 81 years old. She got resounding applause at commencement. It is a story, she has a story that really captured the attention of the campus, of the local news media. And so in terms of the importance of this event, the significance, it wasn't just for our campus, but our community really embraced the fact that someone who had early in life not been able to complete her degree at 81 was able to come back and complete her lifelong dream of completing her degree in fine arts and history. Also, her family, being proud, so proud of what she had accomplished, established an endowment in her honor. And so her achievements will be a gift that lives on as scholarships for students for, in perpetuity. And so when I look at Mary Lou, I think this is why we do what we do, and the just all around importance of how education can transform people's lives, and how those people can transform other people's lives. And so I wanted to start there today. Just while we're on the subject of scholarships, a couple of facts. The WSU Vancouver scholarship endowments now total over $6 million, which is a record for us. And in 2022, we awarded $405,000 in scholarships, which is double what we awarded in 2019. So we have really been working hard to create more opportunities to reduce student debt by awarding scholarships, and that has really been paying off for our campus. I want to touch on just a few things this morning. The first is enrollment. You've heard about the enrollment challenges across the system. We are experiencing those challenges as well. In 2019, we were 3,600 students. As you can see, this semester we are 2,833. That is a very significant drop. And we will drop over the next couple of years as well as we graduate larger classes. Then we will be recruiting, and then we will readjust and begin to grow again. One of the things that is new for our campus this year is, for the first fall in our history, we accepted more first-year students than transfer students. When I started a decade ago, 2/3 of our students came from Clark College alone, and another 10% of our students came from other community colleges. And so this is a significant change for our campus. It doesn't mean that we will no longer be majority transfer students, because in the spring, we'll accept about 200 transfer students and maybe 10 first-year students. So we will still be majority transfer, but this is significant. It raises different questions about how we recruit, about how we support our student body. And so this change is something that we are really going to have to pay attention to. One of the results of that is the average age of our student body for years has been about 27. This year, the average age is 25, and that's a result of taking more students who are coming to us right out of high school. We're doing a lot around enrollment and retention to attract more students, to make it easier for students to transfer to us, and to keep the students who come to us to support their success. I'm not going to highlight all these. I'm going to highlight 3 of them where we are leveraging really long-established partnerships that we have at WSU. The first is that we received a grant to participate in the Aspen Institute Transfer Intensive. WSU Vancouver and Clark College are participating as a team together in this nationwide initiative that has a goal of reducing barriers for students to transfer from community colleges to four-year universities and to complete their baccalaureate degrees. We are also participating in the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Inclusive Excellence Program, which is being led by Professor Gretchen Rollwagen Bolins on our campus. This is a collaboration again with Clark College and with Lower Columbia College, an $850,000 award with the goal of increasing capacity in STEM fields and to recruit a more diverse population of community college students to get their baccalaureate degrees in science and mathematics. And then finally, another initiative around enrollment that I want to highlight is we have our first dual enrollment program that is with Clark College, once again, and the College of Nursing at WSU and on WSU Vancouver's campus. So students who enter the RN program at Clark College will also be accepted simultaneously into the BSN, Bachelor of Science in Nursing completion program at WSU Vancouver. And so as soon as they have completed their degree, their RN degree at Clark, they are already enrolled, already accepted into WSU Vancouver, and merely have to start taking courses from us at that point to complete their baccalaureate degree. We're also doing a number of things around on-the-spot admissions, around guaranteed admissions, which is a system-wide initiative that accepts students without them having to apply at all based on their high school transcripts. That's a partnership with K-12 that has been really strong for us. And so there's a lot of work in this space. We're not just accepting the fact that enrollments are down. We are really looking at strategies to build those enrollments. We are also working heavily in the equity area, and our equity, diversity, inclusion initiatives begin to continue to pay off. We continue to become a more diverse campus. Now 37% of our students are students of color, but look at the numbers of first-year students, where almost half of our students are students of color. And so that means that very quickly we will become increasingly diverse, up to half of our students in the very near future. What are some of the things then that we are working on? Yesterday, Charles mentioned the equity impact assessment tool. We are absolutely thrilled that this is now in the policy on policies. We did not wait for that, and we have been using that tool since it was developed. But I think one of the important things for us in that space is that Obie Ford III, our Vice Chancellor, has really been working to help us learn how to use it. It's not something that you can just read and say, okay, I understand how to apply this instrument. It's something that takes practice. And that's part of our goal, is to get everyone on our campus practiced in using it. And so the professional development that comes around this tool is also really important to the work that we are doing. We call the umbrella for a lot of our work is what we call BASE, building a community of equity. And we have a summer pedagogy curriculum that it's an academy that brings people together, faculty, to learn about decolonizing the curriculum and really developing their courses with an equity first process in doing that. The other thing that I think is really important and has developed extensively since we last talked about our equity work is that there is also a real desire from the communities in Southwest Washington to have a version of BASE that we can export and that really brings professional development around equity work out into our community. And once again, OB has led that work. We call it our enrichment series, but it really is a program that has become, that takes BASE and modifies it for this community and brings that out. And the result is that equity becomes a focus not just for our campus, but we help it become a focus for our entire community. And that has been, I think, hugely beneficial to our community and also mission central to the work that we do. And I'm so proud of the work that we accomplished there. And then finally, I want to talk for one moment about our community engagement work. We always say that community engagement is in our DNA. When I came a decade ago, that was part of what attracted me to this campus, is how engaged we are in the community, and that has only grown exponentially over the years. One of the signature programs that we are working on right now is a partnership between Workforce Southwest Washington, the Columbia River Economic Development Council, and WSU Vancouver, called the Future Leaders Project. And that is a program that is designed to provide historically underserved WSU Vancouver students with paid professional and leadership development opportunities that build social capital, that put them into C-suite internships, that give them access to internships that they might not otherwise have had access to. And seeing this out in the community, it's been, it's hard to describe, but it's been something special. I was talking to a colleague and she said, we interviewed 5 students, can we hire all 5? I said, no, that's not exactly how the program works. And at the end of it, many of these students have been hired by the companies that they've done these internships for. And that has been truly wonderful. Kirk talked about the relationship with Boeing. Boeing has a plant in Portland, and they actually, after a visit that Kirk and I did, right before the pandemic, they reached out to us and said, we'd like to have a relationship with WSU Vancouver. We would like to create a mentoring program. And that has really taken off with our engineering program and with our Carson College of Business. And so WSU graduates who work for Boeing PDX then pair up with students in those 2 colleges and engage in a mentoring program that lasts over the course of the year. And that's been very exciting. And then finally, one of the things that has always been frustrating for us is there's a metro area. There are 16 different colleges and universities in this metro area. And we have always struggled to partner. We've had individual partnerships that have been excellent with OHSU. We've talked about Clark College many times, with Portland State, but the institutions locally have never really come together. And one of the things that has happened recently through Greater Portland Inc. is that we now have a higher ed consortium that welcomes all of the higher ed institutions in the area to come together to focus on community health, on business development, on economic development for our region. And that has only taken off over the GPI voted on this over the summer to approve it. And so it's still in its nascent stages, but that's another area where I think this region will be really served by the work of partnerships and collaboration, which I think is so fundamental to how higher ed moves forward post-pandemic. And so we're very excited about that as well. And I believe that is my last slide. Yes. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Other questions from the board? Well, from my perspective, I just want to offer my gratitude and celebrate your 10 years of service, Chancellor Netzhammer. We had the opportunity to thank you last night for 10 years. And given that I call Vancouver my home, I see you in action and your team in action. We as a company have had the opportunity to participate in BASE and building a community of equity, and the work that you and your team are doing is transformational in our community, in our region, at WSU, and just continue to be grateful for the way that WSU and WSU Vancouver are putting equity first. So thank you for all of your work.
Thanks, it's a privilege.
All right.
Can I make one?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Oh,
Lisa,
yes.
real quick? So, thank you for the report, Mel. This is not directly related, but since I have you in front of me, I want to ask. I serve on another committee. It's the administrative committee for a sub-agency at USDA, the Farm Service Agency. Each county has a county office of FSA, and they're always looking for good people to fill in either part-time or full-time. I reminded the agency, WSU has a presence in every county, and we have multiple campuses. So if we're looking for employment opportunities in Southwest Washington, I wanted them to keep WSU in mind. So if you'd be kind enough to be thinking of who I might have people contact if there are openings in some of these offices, it would be a great way for someone working their way through school to make pretty good money and get work experience. I just wanted to flag that to the campus.
Blankenship. I absolutely, we will get you Narek Danielian's contact information, but we have really been building our partnership with Extension over the last several months, and really looking to support exactly the kinds of initiatives that you're talking about. I've had, let me just say that in the past, my first meeting with a new Connors Dean would have been a year, 18 months after that person's arrival. I've already had multiple meetings with Wendy and the new dean at Connors, and we're really looking to build those partnerships. So I appreciate that, and we will make sure you get that contact information today.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you. And I appreciate that you put us ahead of schedule, and the timer seems to be working very well, so thank you. So So we're gonna head over to President Schultz to do some commendations.
Yes, thank you, Regent Shower. We want to recognize a couple of our colleagues that have really done quite a bit for WSU. And the first is to recognize and just say a few words about Dave Turnbull and his role as the faculty representative to the Board of Regents. It's really, as I wrote down just a couple things, we've been really, really fortunate as a leadership team and as a board to have really outstanding faculty members that have served in this role until Judy became the first permanent person. Just some things about Dave. I thought he was very, and still is, very pragmatic. I think when it came to solving some of these big complex problems, Dave brought a very pragmatic, long-term time at WSU to those particular discussions. I think Dave did a great job of weighing in on tough decisions with a broad view of where the university needed to go. And, even though we had this is sort of an informal, formal kind of position in closed sessions and times discussing contracts and other things, that person was always there, and I know felt that the board really respected their viewpoint. And then finally, I would just say Dave was and still will be an outstanding bridge between faculty leadership and regents. And that's important to have that. That way you're not just going through Kirk and Elizabeth all the time, but you got that direct connection back and forth. And I think we've had really good working relationships across administration, faculty leadership, and the board over my tenure here. We want to continue that, but it's also because we've had some of the right people in those jobs. So I really appreciate Dave's service to WSU on this board and wish him the best of success moving forward. Lisa.
We have a resolution that I would like to read, and we will present this to Dave. Resolution 22118-660. Whereas on August 15th, 2021, Dr. David Turnbull was selected to be the 2021-2022 faculty representative to the Board of Regents of Washington State University. And whereas Dr. Turnbull has worked diligently to strengthen and enhance faculty-senate relations throughout Washington State University. And whereas Dr. Turnbull has discharged his duties as faculty representative in a professional and outstanding manner. And whereas during his faithful and dedicated service, Dr. Turnbull has earned the admiration and respect of his colleagues and is highly regarded for his skillful and insightful leadership at Washington State University. And whereas the Regents, the Faculty Senate, and the University Administration of Washington State University have benefited from his leadership and contributions as the faculty representative. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Dr. David Turnbull be commended for having honorably upheld the position of faculty representative, representing all WSU faculty while furthering university interests. And be it further resolved that the Board of Regents of Washington State University, speaking on behalf of the entire university community, acknowledges with sincere gratitude and appreciation the contributions of Dr. David Turnbull and anticipates his continued involvement with university leadership and the Faculty Senate of Washington State University, dated this 18th day of November of 2022. Thank you.
All right.
My first time in this role, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion of this resolution. Thank you, Regent Redmond. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Regent Powell. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved. Do I need to? I know Marty like just hits that thing, but I think we're good. Okay. All right. So moved. Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
You ready?
I am.
All right. We have one more combination. This is for Stacy. And so everybody get comfortable because I want to say a few items here. Just as I was thinking a little bit about Stacy and her time at WSU, there's just really a lot of great things to say. I think as I listed some of the attributes of Stacy's leadership of finance and administration, WSU, I think one of the things that was really significant is the trust that she built up between all of these different constituent groups. And after just a year or two, people knew if Stacy was going to come talk to them about some budget thing, they were going to get accurate information, regardless of whether it would look good for the administration or it's what people wanted to hear. Stacy really laid it out in a way that was respectful, but very open and transparent. Stacy will tell it like it is. And I think in a chief financial officer, especially if you're going to do some big projects and some of the things that we tackled together, you have to have somebody that's willing to tell it like it is and not tell like you'd like to hear it. Stacy brought a really great skill set in creative problem solving. And I think it's not just telling people what it is. Lots of people could do that, but it was sort of, if we got to get to somewhere, you need somebody that's going to work together and coming up with ways to get something done that we felt was important for the institution. And Stacy many times found a way to yes. And I know the initial conversation might have been a no. And over a week or two, she'd come back with some ideas, say, well, if we did this, but don't do this, maybe we can get there. And this happened a lot. And I really do appreciate that. Stacy also worked extremely well with her peers. And often she would tell me, hey, we've got this issue with this particular unit. And I'd say, what do you want me to do? She goes, oh, I'm going to talk to them, but I just want you to be aware of it. And I just appreciate the fact that she did all this peer to peer and really had the respect of her peers. Now, occasionally I had to get involved, but that was probably 2 or 3 times over 5 or 6 years. And that ability to work together on things and have those tougher conversations at times really made a big difference. Then if I look on just taking on tough problems, we Workday, a 4.5 to 5 year process and still underway. A clear delineated process for how we submit capital projects to the legislature with a scoring system and transparency and faculty involvement. Restoration of our central reserves during times where we didn't necessarily always have as much money coming in as we like. Athletics budget. When Stacy got here, when both of us were here, we were running an annual operating deficit in athletics of $13 million a year. We have a balanced budget this year, and that has not been an easy task, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I think transparency in what we were doing was probably one of the biggest things, because it's not just telling it like it is, it's laying out data and information in a way that people can understand, that are not finance majors or don't spend a lot of time in higher education finance, and everybody walking away going, I understand it, understand where we're going, understand what the approach is. So Stacy, it's been just such a privilege to have you as part of our leadership team. And if you don't follow Stacy on Instagram, do not feel bad about her retirement. She would say, oh, I'm going to be out for a little while, and I'd see pictures of her in Arches National Park and doing this and that. So we really wish Stacy well on her retirement, and thank you for all you've done for WSU. Go Cougs.
Yes.
Well, we got a whole resolution.
Wait, I do. Please.
Okay. I just want to thank you for those acknowledgements and for allowing me to serve on this, serve at WSU and present to the board. I do have to tell a story, because when the search consultant was pestering me, she said, I think you should read some of the things that the president wrote. He wrote about the need to modernize systems and fiscal recovery. And I'm like, okay. And so when I interviewed with Kirk, I said, these things are really hard. and people get really unhappy about it. So are you sure you really want to do this? And it was really one of the reasons I came, because I know that if you're serious about these things, we can get them done, but it just takes a lot. And so I have to express my gratitude for the support. As Kirk said, I often tell the truth, and I really appreciate that he really supported me in a lot of the things that we needed to get done. But I would be remiss of those projects that you've mentioned. I just had an excellent staff. So when I would retreat with the no, sometimes I'd go back to my staff and I'd say, this is what they want to do. How are we going to get to yes? It was people like Matt Skinner, Olivia Yang, and Charles and Danielle, Vicky Murray, and Kelly Westoff. I mean, we would just get in and we'd troubleshoot, we'd find option A, option B, and go through it. So I really couldn't have been successful here without the staff that I had. They helped me navigate. Des helping me navigate the Regents and kind of figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do now? I really appreciate all of that. So, and I just had a great group of colleagues to work with. All of you, even if we were in disagreement, we would kind of try to figure it out. Very proud of co-chairing Elizabeth's search committee, which we did during COVID via Zoom, and she came sight unseen. So I've just had a really great experience here, and I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Stacy. All right, this is a impressive resolution. So here we go. Whereas on March 1st, 2017, President Kirk Schultz appointed Ms. Stacy Pearson to serve as Vice President for Finance and Administration for Washington State University. And whereas during the past 5 years, Ms. Pearson has dedicated herself to the betterment of all administrative, business, and financial operations at Washington State University. And whereas Ms. Pearson used her experience and passion for professional development to mentor and build a strong leadership team. And whereas Ms. Pearson dramatically improved the fiscal health of the university by leading a system-wide 3-year financial recovery plan, turning a $30 million annual operating deficit into a nearly $30 million surplus. And whereas Ms. Pearson guided WSU through the significant budget impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas Ms. Pearson led the successful implementation of Workday, effectively modernizing the human resources and finance paper-based systems into a modern infrastructure that supports the increasingly diverse and complex activities of the university, and whereas Ms. Pearson worked effectively to guide the university's executive budget committee in creating a blueprint of a new incentive-based, responsibility-focused budget model, which will provide improved transparency of the activities that generate revenue, an understanding of the costs of operations, an increased ability to strategically plan and allocate financial resources. And whereas Ms. Pearson guided Cougar Athletics to develop a balanced budget and represented Washington State University at the Pac-12 Chief Financial Officers meetings as a respected and seasoned financial leader. And whereas during her years of faithful and dedicated service, Ms. Pearson has earned the admiration and respect of the board, her colleagues, and the university community, and is highly regarded for her skillful and insightful leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washington State University Board of Regents expresses its deep appreciation and sincere gratitude to Vice President Stacy Pearson for her vision and strength of leadership at Washington State University. And be it further resolved that the Board of Regents extends to Ms. Pearson its best wishes and further endeavors and presents this resolution to her as a symbol of the board's sincerest appreciation, dated this 18th day of November, 2022. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution number 221118-662. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Second, Regent Redmond is there. So thank you. Is there any discussion?
They oppose her resignation.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm tired just reading that. You have done such an amazing job. Thank you, Stacy. We really appreciate you. All right. We will now move to the consent agenda. We have one item on our consent agenda before us today, and that's the approval of minutes from the September 16th, 2022 Board of Regents meeting. Would any regent like to move an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I move to approve the consent agenda, and I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, Regent Cerna.
Judy's
right.
got to be quicker.
I know.
I know.
She not.
Trying.
All right. Anyone opposed? Sorry, I think I needed to ask for, is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so moved. Whew. All right, reports from our shared governance groups. First up is our foundation draft. Our board president, Lisa King, will be presenting via Zoom. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Good morning, everyone. Like everyone else, the foundation has a lot to report since the September 16th meeting. So first of all, we held our annual fall meeting and award celebration September 28th through the 30th. And I would like to extend my thanks to all the regents who attended those activities. Your presence does make an impact, and I appreciate that. We awarded our Outstanding Service Awards to 4 personalities, Mike Blankenship, Tony and Emily Poston, Mike and Debbie Leslie, and Rebecca Zanata. We also extended Outstanding Faculty Awards to Byron Marlowe, Mel Netzhammer, and Nancy Swanner. Our William F. Biff Brotherton Cougar Spirit Award was awarded to Nancy Harnish, and the Weldon B. Gibson Hoot Gibson Award went to Dan Harmon. All well-deserving recipients, so congratulations to all of them. The WSU Foundation and the Alumni Association continue to build on our relationships and partnering for the benefit of advancement. Mark and I are trying to communicate with one another on a every other week basis. We haven't quite met that 2-week timeline yet, but we're working on it, just so that we can keep one another apprised of things that are happening in our organizations. I'm very pleased to announce that we recently completed a successful audit of the WSU Foundation, and there were no issues noted. Hooray. We also are very pleased to announce that we have a 2023 recruitment class of 7 new board members. Their terms will begin on January 1st, 2023. And those board members are Kathy Brindley, Melanie Lang, Hubert Langenhorst, Gina Myers, Rich McKinney, Elizabeth Schneider, and Gary Teague. The board also just recently conducted a board self-assessment, and we will spend time at our annual retreat in February going over those results. A board assessment is part of the industry best practices that we are continuing to follow. And in January of 2023, I and a few other members of the foundation staff, most likely Mike Connell, will be attending the AGB conference to work with our cohorts in the industry and to learn more about what we should be doing as a board. That's my report. Any questions?
Any questions by the board?
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Lisa, we appreciate all of the time that you dedicate to the work that you're doing. It makes a huge difference. So I feel like each time that I'm at an event, which is not nearly as often as you were there waving the Cougar flag. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then it's Mark on. I know Mark Schuster, the Alumni Association board president. So let's go to Mark next. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. I'm on and always real appreciative of the opportunity to talk to this group on updates. So I think when I first talked to you the end of last spring, one thing we talked about was one WSU, and I have some pretty cool stuff to update this group on about that. So we've completed all the meet and greets with our new executive director, Mariah Mackey, and those have gone really well. We still have the Tri-Cities left, but I'll explain. That's coming on December 3rd. I'll explain that a little bit later. But and we're continuing to look at ways to leverage the Alumni Association across all the campuses. And so as we've done these meet and greets, alumni and friends have been incredible, right? Have just great turnout and engagement. So that's been awesome. And initial connections with the chancellors has been super positive and so successful that we've committed to quarterly meetings to keep that progress moving forward. And I think I've also talked to this group over the last few years. Our board has been represented by people from all the different campuses. And so that's awesome. And I got to do a quick call out to our vice president. So she'll be president in a couple years. Katie, she was at the last football game, got the award for Global Camp Society of Distinguished Alumni. She's a global campus graduate. So she was down there on the field along with Lisa. I'll give Lisa a shout out as well too. It was very exciting at the game. It was like, hey, I know them, right? This is great. And so great honors for that group. And then I want to give an update. We do have a date. So a couple years ago, before COVID, Noel and Jane Young, who was the president of the Alumni Association, had this great brainchild and collaboration around an event that the Women's Leadership Summit. And so this has now become a signature event for the Alumni Association. So we've announced a date. We've got February 24th, 2023 as our next leadership summit. And again, this is every year we get hundreds and hundreds of people joining online. And then as soon as it's done over the course of the next year, we get equal of that number or more listening to it on a recording. So it's become just a really rich and event for us. And so this year, one thing we're doing, we're working with System Leadership, and they're helping us recruit graduates from all the different campuses to be part of our panel discussion. And we're also encouraging watch parties and Q&A sessions at all the campuses possible to really make it that online and that interactive learning experience and engagement. So really excited about that event coming up in February. You'll see more announcements on that, but I encourage you to attend that if possible. And this time of year is also a big time for alumni events where we have our Cougar Gold and Mistletoe events, and it's just a beloved tradition amongst our chapters, and they're more than just a chance for Cougs to get together and celebrate the holiday, and which of course we love to do, but many of them also include a community service component like a food drive. We've done a pet supply drive, toys for children. So those are always a real important part of the event. But another thing that many of the chapters do, especially if they're not local, is they also do it as a Cougar Gold cheese pre-order. And so it's funny as you look at these chapters online that aren't, I'm in the Tri-Cities, so it's easy for me to get Cougar Gold, but it is like this big deal, right? And they load up for the whole year of Cougar Gold, and it becomes a big part of the tradition. So we love that part of it as well too. So one thing we're really pleased about this year's events, and as we think about one WSU, we are trying to include them, a campus component, in as many places as we can. And so the Tri-Cities, like I said, we hadn't had the meet and greet yet because that's on December 3rd. We're going to have the official meet and greet with Mariah, but it's also going to feature Chancellor Haynes because it's going to actually be located at the Wine Center right there on the campus. And so we are really excited about that as being a great opportunity to bring this beloved Alumni Association tradition right there on campus and really highlight the Wine Center as well too. So that'll be a fun event. In Spokane, the event will feature Chancellor DeWald, and we're finalizing details of the Portland event, and we're hoping to see if we can include Chancellor Metzhammer and at that event and the King County event. Hopefully to include Chancellor Petrie as well too. So these are all ways to further strengthen those connections and engagement with chapters and campuses. So if you're around any of those events, I encourage you to go onto our webpage and sign up and enjoy those as well too. This is also the time of year, which is one of our favorite times, where we're accepting scholarships. So that opened up on November 1st and it goes through January 31st. So we anticipate this year awarding over $330,000 in scholarships to deserving students across all our chapters. So when you drive by a car and you see one of the Cougar license plates, give them a thumbs up, because that's where that money comes from. And we get the opportunity to talk to some of those students every year that receive those scholarships, and just amazing, right? These are the leaders for now and in the future of our communities and our country. So it's really awesome. So I'm excited about that. And students at all campuses are eligible for scholarships. Every single campus, they're eligible for scholarships. And the last thing I have, and some of you may have heard this before, and that's okay, because I keep saying it about every time I get the opportunity to talk to anyone. So I do want to highlight that WSU, in the Princeton Review Top 20 Best Alumni Rankings, network rankings, WSU is ranked at number 13. And so I'm going to keep telling people that and sharing that story. And the great thing about that, so if you look, they have 20 of them. There's only 2 schools anywhere near the West Coast. We're number 13. There's another Pac-12 school rated at number 20, and I'll just say that school isn't on the west side of our state. So I'll just put it that way, right? and the criteria that they had, it says based on college student ratings of alumni activity and visibility on campus. That's awesome, right? And then just speaks volumes for the staff and the excellent programming, the engagement, and our alumni and our students. So we're really proud of that. So that's why I said I'm gonna keep talking about it, and then in the future I'll talk about when, hey, we're higher than 13, right? So with that, that's my report for the Alumni Association, and appreciate the time. And if anybody has any questions, would be open to those as well too.
Please make a comment. Mark, this is Laura. I just wanted to thank you and the board for all you have done to really expand the Alumni Association's reach to all of the campuses in our system. I think it's just been a real refreshing thing to have happen, and it brings a lot of Cougs into the fold and makes them, regardless of what campus they're at, it makes them feel part of the greater whole and the Cougar Nation, which is such a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we want to unlock the full power of awesome Cougs wherever, right? And so thank you for those comments.
Yeah, I would agree. Your reports are enthusiastic and certainly get you excited about wanting to find one of the alumni events and connect. And they are seemingly close to each of us in all of the different areas. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
A couple of things to add, if I may, Regent Shower. So you started with gratitude, so let me just pile on there. Good morning and welcome aboard, Regent McDonald. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for your service. Thank you to all the Regents for your service. A big thanks to Lisa and our entire board, as well as Mark and the board and the Alumni Association. WSU is very much a collection of peoples, and the volunteerism is a big piece of that. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of WSU, are incredibly grateful for it. Fundraising year to date, as of this morning, about $35.5 million. That puts us a little bit behind where we were last year at this time, and a little bit behind where I'd like to be. Maybe a couple of observations there. Last year, the first 6 months of the fiscal year ending 12/31 was the best we'd had in 10 years. And so we're tracking a champion, if you will. Some of you know last year was our best year ever. And so I'm not losing a whole lot of sleep. When you dive into the numbers, we're tracking a little bit behind on gifts of appreciated stock. That can't shock anybody. People give away stock when it's appreciated, and there's a little bit less appreciation right now than there was a year ago. And then we're a little bit behind, and we do track those individuals that inform us they've put WSU in their state plan. We call that a revocable commitment, and we're just not as far along on those. While I'm grateful for those commitments, relative to the true outright gifts, if you will, the meat part of the sandwich, we're kind of right in line with where we were last year in terms of cash and that sort of thing. So that the other piece of it is we look forward in terms of proposals that are either in the system where we're awaiting response from the prospect or donor. That number is robust. We also track proposed proposals. So those that we're going to submit this fiscal year, and I feel very good about those numbers. I've mentioned before, ultimately fundraising totals are most strongly influenced by large gifts. We've talked already a lot about systemness today in one WSU. When I look around where we are system wide, Jennifer and Mel, Jennifer submitted a $5 million proposal this week that a number of us worked on. A different prospect asked her for a $5 million proposal. And then there's talk of another gift that's north of that magnitude as well. When you go up to Spokane, Daryl and Kirk and others have worked really hard. There's conversations around a commitment that when I first heard it, it was 6, and then later this week it slid up to 8 or maybe 10. If you look on the Pullman campus, Elizabeth and Kirk and I are on an email string this week that talks about a commitment that's would be among the largest ever to WSU, north of 20 million. So there are a lot of really nice gifts and proposals and commitments in the works. And again, ultimately those large ones are what have the strongest impact on results. Mark mentioned Global. Last weekend, they recognized 5 of their distinguished alums, and one of them approached me and said, Mike, a lot of the folks that participate in Global, it's that, I started, but I never finished. And she said, is there a way for me to help people finish? And so, when we think system, think Global as well. And so she's in touch with the development officer now about potentially talking about a scholarship that just is that lasts a little bit. For some people, it's a year. Some people, it's maybe even just a semester. There's programs here at Vancouver. Dan Harmon, many of you have met Dan. He and his wife set up a scholarship like that years ago, just to help folks get across the finish line. So feel very good about the systemness of our development efforts. The leadership is very engaged. I'm grateful for that. Let me pivot now just briefly to the endowment. Of course, monitoring the endowment on a quarterly basis generally, but so as of the end of September, $606 million. Of course, that's down a little bit. No surprise there, but I feel good about how the endowment is invested. There are a number of defensive positions that help us in the troubled times. So it does better than many other pooled funds in the more challenging times. So I feel good about that. And then quarterly, we distribute money out of the endowment, and we distributed $8.5 million out to the different beneficiaries, whether it's a scholarship, an excellence fund, or an endowed position at WSU, so that all of that process is working. I want to loop back. Kirk and others have mentioned the Boeing gift. One of the things we decided to do, and Kirk mentioned this, is a little bit of a splash around Boeing. But let me talk briefly about a little bit more about Boeing. They are our, if you define loyal as longevity, they are our most loyal corporate donor. Boeing has been supporting WSU for approximately 60 years. So there is no corporation that supported WSU for a longer period of time than Boeing has. They are also our most generous corporate donor. Their corporate support approaches $30 million. And so the splash around Boeing was intentional. We are incredibly grateful for everything Boeing does and has done and continues to do for WSU. And as Kirk referenced, that includes hiring graduates across the entire spectrum, and Mel referenced that as well. So part of the splash was to make sure people knew about the gift. It's one thing to celebrate a gift in Pullman, but nobody hears about it. So Kirk talked about the paid media. Of course, these days you can track to some degree just how much exposure you're getting. And by one metric, the combined total potential audience reach was more than 300 million people, which measures the number of times coverage could have been seen. 300 million impressions. So we're gonna make sure people know about large gifts to WSU and that we celebrate those. So just want to comment briefly on that. And then maybe lastly, when you're in higher ed, there's an old stage that says you're either in a campaign or planning for a campaign. So I know this meeting is public and we're very careful to talk about campaigns. So I'll use maybe a middle word as part of spade work for a campaign. So hopefully that wasn't too definitive. Kirk and I recruited a group last year to help us with some planning. So 9 individuals, and I just want to publicly acknowledge their help. That group had their last meeting. Was that earlier this week, Kirk? Yeah. So chaired by Dan Harmon, who is right here, of course, in Portland. 3 former regents on the group: Scott Carson, Phyllis Campbell, and Betsy Coles. Very grateful for their assistance. Former WSU Vancouver faculty, Jane Cody, on the group. And then Mike Hamilton from Wenatchee, Gina Myers, who's in Ellensburg, formerly of W, Gary Schneidmiller of Post Falls, and Gene Voiland down in Bakersfield. So they were incredibly helpful to Kirk and I and my team and the university leadership around just some fundamentals of campaign planning. So just want to publicly acknowledge them for their service to WSU as we look forward in terms of campaign execution. Lastly, of course, as we approach Thanksgiving, it is the season of gratitude. And so we did push out a little National Philanthropy Day was on Tuesday. And so we pushed out a note via email to thousands of WSU alums, graduates, and friends. And I just, and one of the things I do believe is part of my responsibility is to be our chief gratitude officer. I just can't imagine where we'd be without the volunteerism, whether it's a regent, the board of directors of the foundation, the alumni association, the many different volunteer capacities that serve here on the Vancouver campus or in the various different colleges. We'll be seeking more volunteers as we transition further and deeper into campaign. We just cannot do it without volunteer assistance. So I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers. Ultimately, my job is to maximize private support at WSU. Volunteerism is a big part of that. So with that, I say thank you to everyone, and I stand ready for questions as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be in Clark County today.
All right. Thank you. We will move to our Faculty Senate Chair, Christine Horn. Christine is presenting via Zoom.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. First, I want to add on to what folks were saying to Stacy. I want to say to Stacy how much we at Faculty Senate have appreciated her. Faculty have absolute confidence in Stacy, and that doesn't always happen. So we have really appreciated the straightforward way that she's communicated with us about the budget. I also wanted to mention a question that Laura Powell asked at the last meeting about how students are doing who started at WSU during the pandemic and how they're doing now. So one way to think about that question is to think about students who started in, say, 2015 and completed their whole college career by 2019 and never experienced the pandemic at all. What does that curve look like for those students in terms of their GPA, the number of DEFs and withdrawals they had, their graduation rates, the rate at which they left school, the 4-year graduation versus 6-year graduation numbers, et cetera. And so one way to think about this is to say, okay, let's look at that group of students, the pre-COVID cohort, and then compare them to the cohort of students that started, say, in 2020 or 2021. And we have a group of folks at WSU who love data and who have been working to figure out ways to make data about students more accessible to academic leaders, department chairs, for example, which is a nice complement to what the Office of Research is doing. Anyway, they've created some dashboards that do exactly that comparison that I've been describing. It's a little early now to say what those curves, those cohort curves will look like, but what we're seeing is that there's been no huge drop off, like no major dips. So we think that's good. And we'll be able to follow this over time to see really how this cohort of students is doing. So I did want to respond to that earlier question. I also want to talk about Faculty Senate priorities for this year. Our first priority is communication, and this is something that we've really been working on over the past several years. Greg Crouch, a previous chair, created a constituent concerns page, and that created a mechanism that faculty could use to communicate directly with Faculty Senate. Last year, Doug Call wrote a number of blog posts, which were a really good tool for getting information out to faculty. And this year we were still hearing that faculty were saying, well, we don't know when you're talking about something that I'm interested in. We don't know when we should go to your webpage. And so we created an email that goes out before every faculty senate meeting and lets them know what we're going to be talking about and provides the link to previous speakers. And we've seen more engagement with faculty senate, more people getting on to see the meetings, more people clicking to watch our speakers, more. And so we're hopeful that this is going to be a useful tool for engaging faculty. Our second priority is improving the lives of faculty and really advocating for faculty. And the constituent concerns are an important part of how we do that. People in different structural positions in the university have different windows on what's happening. So getting input from various sources is really helpful. And we try to take those concerns to university leadership and say, is this a problem we can solve? If it's not a problem that we can solve, how can we help faculty understand what the constraints are? And so we try to do that. And then finally, we also try to strengthen the academic mission and serve as a voice, a consistent reminder about the importance of the academic mission and trying to improve that. Faculty Senate, as you know, is a system organization. And so we represent faculty and advocate for faculty wherever they are. Accordingly, we work to communicate with faculty on every campus. And we do this in part through committee members from various campuses who serve on Faculty Senate and also senators from across campuses. We also try to visit faculty and leadership on different campuses. This fall, we went to Tri-Cities and had a great visit there. In a few weeks, we'll be going to Spokane to visit with faculty and leadership. And then in the spring, we're planning to visit Everett and Vancouver. So these are really important for us. For maintaining open channels of communication. And these visits are really helping us to understand the local context that faculty are experiencing. So that is it for us. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? All right. Appreciate your report. Thank you very much. All right. Next up is ASWSU President Jacob Bouchier.
We also have Kylie here, Vice President.
Hi. In person from Vancouver.
Indeed. I know our chancellor earlier was talking about the lovely weather, although I will say that my car's locks did freeze this morning. So I took an Uber to campus. But that's all right. I made it. All right. Thank you very much, Regent Shower, for having us. And I don't usually do introductions. I often forget. But my name is Jacob Boucher. I'm the president of ASWSUV. I am a psychology major, minor in political science and English. And I'm graduating in the spring.
Hi, my name is Kylie Sickles. I am the ASWSUV Vice President. I am a DTC major with a minor in computer science, and I'll be here for another year after this, so I'm a junior standing. When we were first campaigning and first running for president and vice president, one of our main goals was to increase student involvement on campus and to help facilitate that. And I am very pleased to announce that we have seen a dramatic increase of student involvement here at WSU Vancouver. We began this semester, so in the summer, the count of student clubs was at 17. We are now up to over 50 clubs, and these clubs are very active on campus. Some of these clubs include the tennis club, which has, I believe, over 80 members, which is very impressive. We have a pre-health club, a finance club, a Dungeons and Dragons club, a very healthy mix of fun clubs and academic clubs. And I'll mention that Jacob Boucher is the president of Psychology Club. So,
right. So yeah, we're going to try to give a good overview of everything that the students here are doing, not just student government itself. So we've had some great events this year. One that student government did put on was Floats for Votes. If you don't know, we have some local political candidates come and talk to students here. There are over 150 attendees, including students and community members, here to talk to candidates and also have root beer floats and pizza. And we also had the Halloween extravaganza that was put on by our student activities board, which had a great turnout. Really impressed with that event. And coming up soon is the Harvest Festival. There's been a lot of time and effort invested into this, and it's going to be sprawling across campus. We're going to have a lot of food, and it's put on by our student organization council, which we've kind of put together to have clubs collaborate to do stuff together, which I think is a really great opportunity to increase connectedness here on campus. Apart from that, also our student government is working with our student wellness center to upkeep our student care carts in the bathrooms. These have contraceptives, basic care products like deodorant, toothbrushes, that sort of stuff, just stuff students need. Really well received. We're always restocking them, so I think that's a good indicator. And we've also been advocating a lot for a bunch of different student issues. One of them is transportation, which I experienced today. But our public transit to campus can sometimes not quite work for every student. So we've been exploring options to make sure that students who aren't necessarily driving to campus every day still have the opportunity to get to campus in a timely manner, especially. And on one thing we're doing on that is we met with Representative Sharon Wiley, who has tentatively agreed at least to help put on a transportation survey statewide, just to understand better how we can improve transportation in the state, because it's kind of rough sometimes, right? But we're also looking at having a shuttle to and from the Vancouver Mall. At least for finals, we're looking at having a pilot program, and we're working on that. We're also advocating for students on food service on campus. I don't know if you've had a look around, but we do have the Crave Cafe over in the Dendrink building. But it doesn't really fulfill all our needs. It has sometimes expired food, and stocking can sometimes lack, and there's sometimes limited options. So we're looking at ways to improve this, including getting food trucks on campus more frequently, and also trying to restart our cafeteria. And there are challenges with that, but we're looking at options, including supporting with S&A fees to get that started back up, hopefully in a timely manner. And there are a lot of things we've advocated for, and I can't cover them all, but these include potential community garden here, expanding our gender neutral bathrooms, which hopefully there will be one soon in this building, increasing adoption of base training, which Chancellor Netzhammer talked about earlier, and just a lot more. So we haven't covered everything, but I'll accept any questions if you have them.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Quick comment. I am just so impressed with how you've got increased the student engagement. I mean, that is huge to jump up to like 50 clubs. I mean, just amazing. And I think it obviously brings everybody together, and then you've got all these other activities. So I think it's just very impressive and very exciting. And I think it probably helps beyond just the socialization. It brings students to campus and gets them totally involved, which often can translate into, enhanced studies, et cetera. So kudos.
Right.
I'll echo that. Yeah, no, walking around your campus yesterday and the day before, just great positive energy, great presence.
Yeah,
so I'm impressed.
It's really been impressive how we've increased engagement. It really has made it feel more community-like than it was last year, and I'm really encouraged by all of it.
Bye-bye COVID.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of it is because post-COVID, although we're not completely out of it, but just being able to come back to campus and being here and wanting to see people again.
That's probably a large part of it. I think people are feeling more comfortable with being around other people, of course, but also, as I'm sure a lot of you know, or probably all of you know, it's been hard having student affairs staff around. There's a lot of turnover with the pandemic, not just at WSU, of course, but at other universities. And we've been able to kind of replenish our office a bit. We got a new student activities advisor. We got a new director of our Office of Student Involvement. And just a bunch of other support staff that I think have been really instrumental in helping us regrow in our student involvement. So there's a lot of factors, but yeah.
Right.
I have one question. First of all, thank you. Thank you for doing all that work. That must have been a lot. But I just wanted to ask you overall, how is student morale?
I'd say definitely improved from years past. I began in 2020, and I worked in the Office of Student Involvement at that time, so saw no students. And those who came in were like, where am I? I think students have a much better sense of belonging here at WSU Vancouver, especially with the bigger diversity of clubs. Like I mentioned, there's a Dungeons and Dragons club, which I think is so neat. So there's a lot more sense of belonging here on campus. And, you know, as a commuter campus, it's hard to get students excited to be here. But with this increase of clubs and increase of events because of it, a lot more excitement to just be here and not necessarily be in a class. Yeah.
I agree.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Rhian, were you gonna say something?
Yes, two things.
Great.
Okay. One, I would just like to submit a proposal that your transportation pilot program be called Van Coog Vans. And then two, I wanted to ask about your impressions of sort of mental health. Not only, I mean, you talked about the belonging piece, which I think is really great, but also I know mental health services, you know, on campus, it's on all our campuses, is sometimes difficult to get sufficient access. So could you talk about it?
I am passionate about this. I have personally utilized our mental health services here on campus throughout every year that I've been here. We have unfortunately had some staffing issues this year. In a normal year, students are allotted 15 regularly scheduled counseling sessions. These are 45 minutes to an hour regularly scheduled, does not include consultations. This semester it is capped at 3, and after that you are put on a waiting list because we unfortunately only have one doctor here on campus, psychologist, I should say. And so we can only have 2 doctoral trainees that they can oversee, so they can only see so many students. They have been in the process of trying to find a second psychologist, but we just lost one of them last year. They left for a different community institution. So there have definitely been some struggles. I will report this isn't quite mental health, but we do have our Cougar Health Services back, which is very exciting. That is where we are partnering with, I believe Zoom Care is the name of the company, to bring in physicians for students to utilize, I believe twice a week. That could be incorrect, but students can come in, get a checkup, get a physical, get testing, things like flu shots, everyday student needs. They can come in for free and access those services. So physical health is on the up, and we are working on a fix for the mental health side.
Thank you for that.
Great question. Jacob, you mentioned BASE, and I am forever a student of O.B. Ford III and all that he teaches. I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're hoping to see relative to BASE?
Right. Of course. Well, okay. I'll start from the beginning. So an issue that always pops up in academia, again, as I'm sure you're all aware, is it's hard to require, especially faculty, to do anything, or like a tenured faculty to do anything. including base. So it's something that WC Vancouver has been working hard on, making sure that people actually do it right. And I think that administration has been doing a fine job of doing this, but it's something that's going to always be a process. So one issue is adoption of it. Another issue is just making sure we have a diverse range of offerings for the trainings, the particular trainings they have. And so we've had discussions around LGBTQ issues being discussed, and having that be more of a part of it. And there are options for it. We just want to figure out what the right balance is between especially race issues, gender issues, sexuality issues, that sort of stuff. And something that I would like to see eventually in the future is having students be a part of this as well, or some variation of students being able to be more of a part of the program, because I think it's really great. I think more people having it open to more people would be a great opportunity. So that's kind of what we've been looking at.
Excellent. So what I'm hearing you say is it would be great if our entire WSU community were engaged in building a community of equity.
Yes. Yeah.
And in some level of training.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. And part of the reason I invested in doing that myself, because I think that we all need to lead in that way. So are there any other questions for Jacob or Kylie, maybe from folks that are on Zoom before we move to the next report? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your leadership. I think the engagement is reflective of your commitment to wanting to engage, and say that having been on campus pre-COVID, I don't recall seeing the campus as alive as it is today. So I really believe that while COVID has been a part of our world, it is a commitment to engaging students and finding ways to have them activated here on campus. And that commitment that you've made in running is obvious in the way in which folks are showing up. So congratulations and thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to Administrative Professional Advisory Council. We have Brandon Frizz, APAC Chair-elect, will be presenting via Zoom for Chair Angie Center.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. Delighted to be with you all this morning on behalf of our chair, Angie. I'm the vice chair filling in today, and I have 6 bullet points to share with you all this morning. So first off, our monthly APAC meetings have been strongly focused on inclusivity and equity for all of our constituencies. That's kind of a real primary focus for what we're doing at APAC. And we have been operating in a hybrid model with groups gathering in person and at streaming locations. So individuals have a choice of either getting together for real-time communications across the system or zooming in. Really want to make sure we have a lot of flexible options for our APs here. Our October and November meetings both showed an increase in attendance, which is really positive. We want to continue that upward trajectory kind of post peak COVID times, so that we can have more of our APs really kind of more engaged with each other and with our system. Our topic focus on the October meeting, we had an open enrollment discussion with some speakers from HRS. Our goal with that one was to kind of aid employee retention by promoting some of the employee benefits that WSU provides, right? And then in our November meeting, which happened on the 10th, our focus was on brand awareness. So we had Phil Weiler and his tremendous team there to kind of discuss the upcoming new website launch, branding updates, all the incredible resources, most of which are free, to kind of help everyone kind of get on the same page there. APAC strives to create system-wide unity, through that kind of solid, consistent brand presence. Additionally, and kind of a fun thing, we're hosting a system-wide photo contest this fall to help foster unity and community among all AP staff. So if you see anything that looks particularly appealing, don't be afraid to take a shot and send it our way. And I also want to make sure to congratulate the 22 AP employees that are celebrating their induction into the Quarter Century Club this month. Just a tremendous accomplishment, and we're very, very thankful to have their dedication to WSU. Some of the current constituency concerns that APAC is investigating, including our resources for broader accessibility for the employee tuition waiver program, and some more access to end-of-life planning resources. I'd say those are kind of the two kind of primary concerns we're probably focusing on right now. And last but not least, we have our APAC Staff Appreciation Week, which is set for the week of April 10th to the 14th. This is going to be a week of events, professional development, and AP Appreciation Awards for all WSU locations. But that is all I have to report. If there's any comments or questions.
Are there any questions from the board? I just had one question for you. And I don't want to put you on the spot. I do want to tell you that we have been committed to working with President Schultz around compensation. And yesterday we had the opportunity to hear kind of the first step in that compensation plan. And I understand that kind of what we saw was really the administrative professional compensation plan in its kind of rollout. And I was just curious if you could share a little bit about, from your perspective, how that rollout went.
You know, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I'm not quite sure that I can kind of comment on that at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Just looking for your perspective.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions, comments? Any other? Okay. All right. Well, at this time, we'll move to our Board of Director Committee reports. What I into this next phase of reports is that these are reports of a full day of committee meetings. So I anticipate that the next phase of the meeting will run relatively smooth and quickly. Given our timing, which is going very well, I don't think that we'll take a break. I think we're just going to kind of keep moving forward. So if members need to take a quick break, please feel free to do so. But I'd like to keep moving forward if that works for everyone. First up is the first action item that we have is the Washington State University Board of Regents meeting. Meeting schedule. This is under the Executive Governance Committee. I move that the Board of Regents approve the schedule for the 2024 Board of Regents meetings and delegate authority to the president of the university or his designee to select and designate appropriate meetings, places, establish meeting times, establish the agenda and prepare agenda items, dispatch all official notices to meet the state Open Public Meetings Act or other notice requirements, publish meetings and maintain records of meetings, and take other necessary action as required for the orderly conduct of board meetings as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Regent McDonald, thank you. All right. Okay. Discussion?
Super really quick question.
Yes.
Is there a reason we don't characterize the electronic meeting as a global campus meeting?
That's a great idea. I will share that I think at the last meeting, I expressed that I would like to see a meeting dedicated to global and to Everett, which it seemed like there were two meetings capable of being able to do that. I recall that President Schultz was going to add that and make that a priority. Can we add that, amend it?
Yeah.
I propose an amendment to the current motion to adopt the proposed schedule with the amendment of the electronic meeting being a global campus meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Regent Cerna. Okay, so the motion would be amended to adopt the meeting schedule with the January 25th, 26th retreat, the proposed location being electronic with a focus on the global campus. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passed. Thank you. Okay. All right, the second action item for the board is proposed revisions to the Board of Regents policy on delegation of authority and corresponding delegations. I move that the board approve the proposed revisions to the Board of Regents policy on delegation of authority and adopt the following corresponding resolutions delegating authority. Resolution number 221118-668, delegation of authority to approve settlements of legal claims. Resolution number 221118-669, delegation of authority to approve time critical contracts. Resolution number 221118-670, delegation of authority to approve operating agreements with affiliated entities. Resolution number 221118-671, delegation of authority to assign names. Resolution number 221118-672, delegation of authority to approve revisions to faculty manual. Resolution number 221118-673, delegation of limited rulemaking authority. Resolution number 221118-674, delegation of authority to approve degree name changes and extension of existing degrees. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Powell. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. All right.
You're gonna whack it with a hand.
You just missed some real action here. So, okay. We're gonna move into the Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee report. Regent Shetler.
Thank you, Regent Shower. Welcome, everyone. Yesterday, the Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee met. We had two focused discussions. One was on the WSU System Administrative Professional Compensation Plan enhancements, and the other was the legislative agenda update. We also had an action item, which I'll discuss in a moment, which is WSU Pullman proposed naming of the Ida Lou Anderson House. So the administrative professional compensation report was given to us by Teresa Elliott Ceslik, Vice President and Chief, Human Resource Officer. Kirk, I don't know what it is, but you passed it on to me, and I'm remote. And then Melissa Donato, Compensation Manager. So the AP Comp Enhancement Project goals are to compare university roles based on underlying skills, responsibility, and impact to the university. Consider geographic differentials related to the compensation, and create equity and consistency across the WSU system. And they're also to design tools, guides, and policies to make data-informed decisions. In the enhancement compensation, they're looking at position comparisons, standard comp tools, geographic location, and policies. And when they're doing this, they're considering position responsibilities and qualifications, impact and scope, role as it is now, the person in the role, the time in the role, future status, and current compensations. Consistent comparison measures are knowledge, independence, problem solving, and impact. We also discussed grade levels, different proposed grades 3 through 8, as well as a salary structure and geographic considerations taken into account are cost of living, work location, cost of labor in those areas. It was a very wholesome report. They noted that it's not static, that HRS will continue to assess position descriptions, benchmarks, career ladders, and the like. So I know that there's a lot of work that's been done in this space, and look forward to future updates from the HRS team. Next, we went into a legislative agenda, and we talked about the legislative priorities, lessons that were learned during the pandemic, infrastructure building for the future, and the different work that's being done there to, for instance, the engineering building, health and science building, and the Vancouver Life Sciences building. And then we went into the next action item, which was given to us by Elizabeth Chilton, Provost and Executive Vice President and Chancellor for WSU Pullman, as well as Stacy Pearson, Vice President of Financial Administration and our CFO. And this was a WSU Pullman proposed naming of the Ida Lou Anderson House. And just let me tell you a little bit about that. So Ida Lou Anderson was actually a professor at WSU. Completed in 2013, the President's House or the President's Residence was traditionally a home to the WSU President and head of the Pullman campus. In the summer of 2022, after the appointment of Elizabeth Chilton as the inaugural chancellor of the WSU Pullman, Dr. Chilton and her family relocated to the house, and the search began for the name more in line with the house's new designation as home of the Pullman chancellor. Ida Lou Anderson was not only an early alum, but also one of WSU's first women faculty and a member to one of WSU's most notable alums, Edward R. Murrow, as well as countless others. Her academic and professional achievements had an immeasurable impact on radio broadcasting and the academic field of communication, and her accomplishments are even more impressive given that she had significant physical disabilities as a result of having polio as a child. It is fitting that one of the most recognizable buildings on the WSU Pullman campus be named after one of the most accomplished and impactful alums. Additional information about Ida Lou Anderson's life and accomplishments are available and will be made available in the house, as the Elizabeth's team has reached out to Ida Lou's only living heir, which is a great nephew. So at this time, I turn this over to you, Regent Schauer, to read the proposed amendment.
Thank you. Before bringing the motion, I note for the record that it was decided this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents bylaw 212B. I move that the Board of Regents approve the proposed naming of the WSU Pullman Ida Lou Anderson House as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Regent McDonald.
He's quick.
Get it down.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Hearing none. So moved. Excellent.
Thank you.
That will be fun to celebrate and to storytell. All right. Moving on to our Academic and Student Affairs Committee, Regent Cerna.
We had two action items that were presented to us yesterday by Elizabeth Chilton and also from I forgot her first name.
Ellen
Ellen Taylor, I'm sorry. I'll get to those, but there was also an information item that we were presented with. It was an item regarding the naming of the School of Information to the Department of Digital Technologies and Culture, and that was also presented by Elizabeth. Now back to the action items, we had two proposed items there. Revisions to WAC 50426, Standards of Conduct for Students, and the other one regarding policies and applying to all student organizations. We want to take up those action items now. All right, so I propose that I move that the Board of Regents approve proposed revisions to WAC 504-26, Standards of Conduct for Students as proposed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion it passes. The other item is proposed revisions to the WAC code chapter 504-28, policies and regulations applying to all student organizations. I move that the Board of Regents approve the proposed revisions to WAC 504-28, policies and regulations applying to all student organizations as proposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And they will both pass. And that's our report.
Excellent. All righty. Well, then we head to the committee that I chair, Finance and Administration. We had a great committee discussion, and there are several action items, and there was a lot of discussion. We had a report by our Chief Compliance Officer, Cheryl Camazar, and it was really beneficial to not only have the materials and review them, but actually engage in a conversation relative to risk and compliance, how that overlaid with our strategic plan and our budgeting. So I felt like the conversation was rich with dialogue and engagement by the board, and really appreciated the questions that were asked. We had several items that were also items we have been discussing for a while that are in front of the board for action. We had some items that the board engaged in conversation and questions that over the period of the couple months between our board meeting, we have had some really good dialogue and questions that have been answered. And so I am appreciative of all of the work that each of our regents spend in between meetings to prepare with our leadership team. So each one of us show up in a volunteer capacity. And while it's a significant amount of time over a few days, it's also the time that it takes to prepare before we get here and ensure that we're ready to take action. So I appreciate each of you for the work that you're doing. So with that, I am going to go ahead and move us through the series of action items in front of us today. Like I said, many of which we have had on the docket for some time now. So the first up is our WSU Pullman Taylor Sports Complex Design Phase Approval. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution number 221118-663 and approve the WSU Pullman Taylor Sports Complex design phase and authorize the project to proceed to design only using the design build process pursuant to RCW 4.10, and further delegate authority to the president or designee to enter into any and all contracts necessary to complete the design phase with a total cost not to exceed 2.4 million as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Redmond. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, I just want to continue to thank the Taylors for this contribution and commitment. This helps us continue to move forward in a substantial way. So thank you. This is approved. All right, on to the next. WSU Vancouver, a life sciences building, project budget increase. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution 221118-664 and approve an increase of $4,964,000 in the project budget for the WSU Vancouver Life Sciences Building, and further delegate authority to the president or designee to enter into any and all contracts necessary to complete the project within the new budgeted amount of $69,264,000 as proposed. Is there a second? Second by Regent Powell. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, so moved. Fitting to be in Vancouver for the approval of that. All right, on to the next. WSU Pullman Schweitzer Engineering Hall Design Phase Approval. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution 221118-665 and approve the WSU Pullman Schweitzer Engineering Hall design phase and authorize the project to proceed to design only using the design build process pursuant to RCW 39.10 and further delegate authority to the president or designee to enter into any and all contracts necessary to complete the design phase with a total cost not to exceed 4.8 million as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Regent McDonald. Thank you for the second. All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, so moved. And again, deep appreciation to the Schweitzers for their contribution and our ability to move this engineering hall forward, and all of the team that helped move that contribution and effort. Okay, proposed university ethics policy. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution number 221118-666 and approve the proposed university ethics policy and delegate authority to the president or designee to approve any final revisions needed to prior to publication or thereafter as proposed. Is there a second? Regent Cerna. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, so moved. All right. The marketing contract for the Cosmic Crisp. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution number 221118-667 and authorize the university to enter into a marketing contract for Cosmic Crisp and delegate authority to the president or designee to negotiate and execute the contract with a cost not to exceed $5,625,000 as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Powell. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Regent Blankenship.
Yeah, I did appreciate the extensive report we received and a nice pile of nice packet of information. But my view on these contracts would be similar to a bank officer getting a mortgage application. If you don't pass the credit check, I don't care what's in the packet, you start there. And in this case, the credit check is the mission of the university. Does it meet the land grant test? I'll explain what I mean by that. In the era of royalties and intellectual property, two models emerged. There's one model that virtually all of the land grant universities in the country have adopted. And then there's the one that's coming out of our office. And in the slide deck, it was referred to, they were considered parallel tracks, perhaps, but in my view, one of them follows the land grant mission and one does not. And since Dean Pinkleton was with us yesterday, I'll pick on his college a second. The analogy I would use would be if the communications dean came forward and said, well, I see that you didn't make the College of Ag toe the line on the land grant mission. I don't want to either. Managing a public radio station is a little cumbersome. I think I'll contract it out and make it a Fox News channel. Well, nothing illegal about that, but it doesn't fit our mission. I would object to that and say, you know, I would prefer that we stick to public radio because that meets the mission of a land grant university. So I also appreciated the comments of more contracts are coming and they want to get it right. Well, some of the details are fine. It would be fine if we were the University of Washington or USC or perhaps Boise State, but we're supposed to be the land grant university. And in a land grant system, the royalties collected should stay within a foundation in the university, not wind up in someone's pocket. And that's my main problem. There's nothing illegal or nefarious, but I would prefer we follow a land grant path, much like the communications example. And the last time we were all together, we had some spirited discussions on one WSU. And I'm paraphrasing, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the response came back, we wanted to get it right. So we took great effort to find successful institutions and pattern ourselves after those successful institutions and take what worked for them and apply it here. And as I understand it, that effort is still underway, which is laudable, defensible, and I support that. But I think this space deserves the same kind of attention. There are peer universities doing this successfully and adhering to the land grant mission. And I think it takes the same kind of effort we've given one WSU, because this may be more important than one WSU long-term, the way things are coming down the pipe. So don't be upset, don't be mad at me. I just see an erosion in the land grant mission in the Ag College, and I'd like to see attention paid to that. So I will vote no on this until I see the so-called credit test passed. And that's my discussion, Madam Chair.
I appreciate that, Brett. Laura.
Yes, thank you for that, Brett. I know this is a very strongly held view of yours, and I do respect that. My perception of what is going on with this contract is the fact that they clearly stated they're not we don't have the resources within the Ag College to effectively market the product in a very competitive environment. And I feel that by having this contract to effectively market it, which ultimately I believe will be bringing more royalties and resources to come back to WSU and support programs within WSU for many years to come, is the way to go. There's all kinds of examples in various sectors where people haven't used outside resources to market products, and then they end up being a failure or not achieving the return on investment. And I don't see a conflict personally. I'm not an expert on the land grant mission, I guess, except for my association with, I went to a land grant and now my association with WSU, but I don't see that there's a conflict there. I do believe that by using the contract, we're being good stewards of the investment that our researchers had in the Cosmic Crisp apple. And I believe that by using that contractor, as I mentioned just a minute ago, we will have more royalties come in, which will come back to support the land grant mission. So that's, I know we're not aligned on this, but that's sort of my feeling.
If I could respond, Madam Chair, just out of full respect and deference, I was more than willing to make an exception for apples because of the unique properties of trying to market an apple variety. But what the board needs to consider is this is just the flagship contract. This is the only one we get to see. There are lots of other contracts that don't come to us. And they're using this as a model. And that's where the entire college is, I'd say they were off the rails, but they're on the rails, going the wrong direction, full speed. So that is my concern, not just this contract. And I don't know how else to send the message, but to vote no on the contract. So if it doesn't trigger your concern, totally understand. But in the sphere I operate in, I see some of the other contracts, and you might not, and that's fine. But I don't know how else to raise the flag, which I've been trying to raise for almost 6 years. So that's what needs to happen. And whether we ever make it happen, I don't know.
I really appreciate your perspective, Brett. And with my finance committee chair hat on, I'll say that I have no expertise in apples, in a research foundation, in agriculture, and very little in higher ed. And so I have heard you, and to me, this seems like related, but two separate issues: a research foundation and a marketing contract. And when I think about the marketing contract, which I might have a little bit of understanding and expertise in, I find that our Cosmic Crisp has outperformed most of our new apples, that marketing is critical, that we want to maintain our momentum and we want to increase sales, and that decision feels to me like one that I am ready to support and have spent time trying to understand. In doing so, I've heard you also raise that this is the mechanism to be able to elevate this other concern that you have that's related. And so I've tried to also understand that as well. What I hear you say is almost a need to ensure we're doing due diligence and calling a question about whether or not WSU should pursue that research foundation. And I have also tried to do my homework relative to that question and have met with a couple of former board of regents, because we had a research foundation prior to my tenure on the board, to understand why did we choose to move away from that. I feel like I have a better understanding of that. And I think it's important that each of us in our role as a regent are doing the due diligence that we need to, understanding the issue and all of those aspects. And I very much respect you bringing this up and bringing up the areas based on your expertise that I have none of, that this is more complicated than just approving potentially a marketing contract for an apple. And so I will just say that I have tried to show up today ready to take action with having done a lot of additional conversations to better understand both of what you've shared are two issues, again, related, but I don't believe we're taking action on whether we should or should not have a research foundation today. I believe we're taking action on whether or not we should authorize the president or designee to take action on a marketing contract. And so that's what I am prepared to do. And again, I want to absolutely honor your perspective and the comments that you've made today and that you have been making in the past relative to the issue around a research foundation. Are there any other comments or discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to call the question. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion on the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion has passed. Thank you for the conversation and the discussion. All right, we're going to move to other business. The Regents met in executive session with legal counsel yesterday to discuss pending litigation involving the university. Related to that discussion, we have the following action item. I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution number 221118-675 and approve the request for defense of a university employee. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Regent Cerna. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion passed. Okay. Now it's time to hear from the public. So we'll now allow for the next 10 minutes of the meeting for the public to provide comments to the board. Please keep in mind that there'll be a 2-minute limit per speaker. We have 4 speakers signed up to speak. So the first speaker that I would like to call up is Ryan Culp. Is Ryan available?
Yes.
Okay. I am
Hi there.
going to, hi Ryan, I'm gonna set my timer here. So 2 minutes, appreciate you being here with the board and would welcome your feedback.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity to make public comment. My name is Ryan Kolb. I'm a third-year student in neuroscience with a software track at WSU Pullman. I'm the treasurer of the ESA, the Environmental Sustainability Alliance, and I'm also part of the subcommittee Fossil Free WSU. On October 27th, we held a peaceful rally and march to advocate for full divestment of WSU's endowments from the world's largest 200 companies engaged in the extraction of fossil fuels. I couldn't attend, but really wanted to be there, and I heard it went well. President Schultz, we delivered a letter to your office at the end of the march requesting that Fossil Free WSU be included in the sustainability task force that you are creating. We are told that you have agreed to this, and so as the task force develops, I wanted to thank you for that. We look forward to our participation as the task force develops core principles for environmental, social, and governance investing at WSU. Our hope is that these core principles will allow for full divestment of the endowment holdings from the 200 fossil fuel companies and for the investment in renewable energy. We believe divestment is an especially effective way to fight climate change because it strikes at the root cause of the problem, the funding of fossil fuel companies and extraction. I also want to urge you, President Schultz, the Board of Regents and WSU Foundation Investment Committee to continue to support and work toward divestment Climate change and its effects are increasingly noticeable. The need for WSU to fully divest from companies involved in fossil fuel extraction is greater than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your feedback. Danielle Weinberger signed up next.
Hello.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. So of course I appreciate this opportunity to make a comment. My name is Danielle Weinberger and I'm a senior at WSU Pullman majoring in business management. I'm also a member of Fossil Free WSU, subcommittee of the Environmental Sustainability Alliance. So as the name suggests, we are seeking WSU's full divestment from fossil fuel companies. I joined this group because I do not think the world is acting quickly enough on climate change, and I believe divesting is a way to make an impact. I know there has been serious discussion and planning lately by WSU and the foundation around divestment, and I'm grateful for that. It makes me feel confident that you are listening to my comment today. A year ago this month, we sent a survey to WSU students asking if they think WSU should divest from fossil fuels. 70% of the 1,000+ students who responded said yes. So far this year, more than 800 students have signed our petition asking for full divestment from the world's top 200 fossil fuel companies. In our publicity for the rally and march we held on October 27th, many students showed support for our campaign. I believe the decision to divest would increase our school's approval rating overall with the students. Many youth today, including myself, feel we are not acting quickly enough on climate change. In divesting from fossil fuels, WSU would be making a difference. So I want to ask to please divest. We want to put a stop to the support of companies that are jeopardizing our planet and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate your comments. If you could provide us a copy of the survey results to Desiree Jacobson, the Board of Regents Assistant, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
All right, next up is Eugene Sakai. Hello, welcome.
First of all, oh gosh, you would have to do that one. Dean Sakai, zoology degree 66, and then OHSU School of Dentistry 1970. I want to really thank you guys for letting me visit with you guys. I evaluated you, I should say. No, I should say I looked at your backgrounds, and surprisingly, it's very similar in a lot of ways. And no, you guys are not Japanese American, sorry, but we have some other things in common. When I first got back from the service in '73, it's when I got re-involved in WSU activities. One here in this local area, Jim Miller, reestablished the Alumni Association and the Cougar Club. So I got to help him do that. And then after that, I had the fortunate ability to work with Keith Lincoln. And many of you know him, and he's really a wonderful guy. I'm just kind of reiterating this because I want to show that I spent a lot of time with Washington, not as much as you guys researching projects, so forth, but still nonetheless the same. And afterwards, when this school was being contemplated, then Dr. Ginger asked me to be on his advisory board. So I said, yes, I'm more than happy to do that. In fact, as you guys, I was one of the people that was in favor of this location. How's that? And then also for Brent is that happened to have season football tickets for like 40 some odd years. So I went through Washington a lot. And
I'm
but
very sorry.
The one thing good is anyway, sometimes we'll talk about the Colotus Coulee. But the thing that I always notice the most is I really love the emphasis of the school and what it has done for people like me, and almost from Wapato, but not quite. My dad's born in Toppenish.
Oh.
But anyway, so
rivals.
it was sometime you and I will have to talk about that too, about minorities and how we work in the eastern area. But anyway, I really love the school, just like this guy here. And so it really hurts me when I see that. When I look periodically, I look at the rankings, U.S. News and World Report, and it hurts. So I'm just basically here to ask you guys if you could reverse that trend. It's not easy. So I want to thank you for guiding the ship, and go Cougs.
Thank you, Eugene. I will just say, being a Vancouver resident,
I know you are.
I first want to say thank you for your service, and secondly, how much you and your work in dentistry has contributed to our community. So thank you. All right, next up, Dick Coles. Colf, sorry.
Calls you. I'm a local too.
Yes, I know. Sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning. My name is Dick Kolf. I'm a graduate of 1966, like Gene, with a degree in civil engineering. My time at Washington State, like Gene's, was very enjoyable. My degree prepared me well for my career. I've been a lifelong supporter of WSU and have been involved in various ways throughout the years. Most recently, being a member of the Boylan College of Engineering Leadership Board for the last 9 years. I've also been fortunate to have received the Alumni Achievement Award in 2013, as well as being named a laureate in 2017. And I realize I've only got 2 minutes, but I'm going to say something here first before I get into what I want to say. I got to compliment Mike Connell, Mike Connell, for raising $150 million last year and 41,000 people. And Stacy, I'm sorry that you're retiring or leaving, because what you and Kirk have done to balance the budget, particularly in athletics, to me is impressive. This Mike Schuster being rated number 13 with alumni, and I'd have to say traveling around going to football games earlier, that's impressive, and I agree with that. And I'd also like to say that what Pat Chun has done to raise all the money, like particularly for this Taylor Sports Complex and other thing, I've given some money, but that's very impressive. But I want to talk to you directly about this. There's a drop in the university rankings and the drop in attendance. Now, what started this, and President Schultz and Chancellor Chilton heard me talk a couple of weeks ago. What started this is when UCLA and USC were pulling out of the Pac-12. They made some comments in the paper. Well, you know, there's some universities that don't measure up, particularly Oregon State and Washington. That offended me. So I started looking into this U.S. News and World Report thing I never looked at. And what I found out really disturbs me. WSU has dropped steadily for 6 consecutive years. It was an overall ranking of things, and WSU is now 212. I know President Schultz and Chancellor Chilton are aware of this. Probably a lot of you are, but we have dropped, just to give you a frame of reference, from 2008 to 2015, we were like 119. Now, since that time, we've gone 176 last year to this year, 212. That's a big drop. So then I looked at the other Pac-12 schools. University of Washington is 55, and University of Oregon State, the bottom one of the 11, is 151. We're 212. There's another ranking that they have, and I've checked on the University of Idaho because they're a land grant institution, 7 miles away. They're 176. And so it really bothers me that we see that ranking. I look at an overall ranking. We're the only one of the Pac-12, including the University of Idaho, that's below 50. Everybody else 60, 70, 80, up to 90. And that really bothers me there. I also checked for the ranking of the Carson School of Business. You know, they ranked 8 Pac-12 schools in the top 80. They don't rank below bottom 80. We're not even in that top 8. I checked with pharmacy. We're at the bottom of that. Every place I checked, WSU is the bottom of the ranking. And that really disturbs me and kind of frankly disappoints me a lot. But then, and then the other thing, they have a best value ranking, U.S. News. University of Idaho is 26, the top university, public university on the West Coast for 3 consecutive years. They're 26. We're 177. We're 151. Now, I don't know how these rankings all are prepared, but think of that. University of Idaho is 26 for best value, public university, highest on the West Coast, second in the United States, actually. We're 177. That really disturbs me. Now, the second thing I want to talk about quickly is enrollment. As you're well aware of, the WSU enrollment last year went down 7.7%. The national average is down 1.1. We're 7 times worse than the national average. Now, the WSU freshman class last year increased 0.6%, but I went to Oregon State, University of Washington, University of Oregon, and Western Washington. all of those, University of Idaho, all of them had record years this fall for freshman, or usually around 15 to 17%. So why are we only 0.6% and they're 7%? There's a lot of money involved, as you are aware, just to look at the loss of revenue of just tuitions. That's millions and millions of dollars. At the University of Washington School, the freshman this year, last fall, was the largest in school history, the same way at Western, the same way at the University of Oregon, and the same way at Oregon State. So they're peer universities. They're not having the same problem that we're having. I guess in conclusion, I'd say the Regents approved, and I checked this out. You people approved the 2023 administrative goals and objectives, but you failed to address the decline in university ranking and the decreased enrollment for the third consecutive year. Finally, under the title of additional goals, the top 3 goals you didn't mention. On additional goals, number 4 was a statement to just stabilize increased enrollment across the WSU system. The Board of Regents needs to amend its approval of the administration 2023 goals and objective and make a high priority to address both the ranking and decreasing enrollment. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback and your contribution to our community. With that, that's the last public commenter that I have record of receiving. Has anyone else called in or registered? Okay. All right. Do you have any other final remarks before I close the meeting?
Elizabeth and I will put together a small group to look at the rankings and provide some information back to the Board of Regents on that particular topic. So Dick, we appreciate you bringing that up, and we've had some time to do some analysis, and what we want to do is just provide the board with some additional feedback. It's going to take us a little while. I don't mean months, but it's also not going to be days. So maybe in January, we'll be ready to talk about that in some depth. Interestingly, if you've been watching higher ed, and I'll stop after this, 3 preeminent law schools have said they will no longer participate in U.S. News and World Report because of the way they do the rankings, and actually bringing in disadvantaged students is deemed as a negative. And Yale, Cal Berkeley, and Harvard just said they're no longer even going to participate. So the rankings is something we need to pay attention to, but I also want to make sure we don't chase them. So because you can spend millions of dollars chasing it, and that can be really difficult. So thank you.
And on that note, I think that I tried to start the meeting with a comment around gratitude, and I like to wrap up the meeting with gratitude. I find myself inspired and humbled by the faculty, the staff, and the leadership at WSU every time I have an opportunity to either be on campus or interact. Serving our students is what we do, and our land grant mission is very at the forefront of the way in which we do it. I'm grateful for our volunteers. I'm grateful for my fellow regents. We did offer our gratitude to both our faculty regent, Dr. Turnbull, and to our vice president, Stacy Pearson, who's retiring. I believe that we do have a lot of hard work ahead of us, and we also have much to celebrate. So on that note, go Cougs.
Cougs. Thank
The
you.
meeting is adjourned. All right.
So Lisa, kudos for running such a great meeting. Running a hybrid meeting's difficult, and you did a wonderful job.